right, we're dishing out some first quarter grades here for the Celtics with a man who covers the Celtics for Forbes Sports, Chris Grenham. How are you tonight, man?
Emerson, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So put on your teacher's cap here, and we're going to start with what's fresh on everyone's mind. It's that Lakers loss over the weekend. It's Kemba Walker. I know he hasn't been on the floor for all 18 games in this first quarter of the season, but what are you going to grade him?
I think it's a little bit unfair. Like you said, he hasn't really been on the court for all that long, but he hasn't been that great when he's been there, right? He's been a little choppy. So I'll go with like a C+ for Kemba, just because he has yet to find that rhythm. Hopefully, we talk again in a couple weeks, that grade will be a little bit higher. He can find some consistency. It's tough. He came back. He's only played 6 games. 4 of those games, Jason Tatum's not in the lineups. So it's kind of hard to get that rhythm back. And I have no doubt that in due time, he'll find a little rhythm and he'll shake off some of that rust. So hopefully that grade can go up down the road.
All right, let's go to another storyline from that game. Marcus Smart could be out a couple weeks here with a calf strain. What would you give him for his first quarter of the season?
Yeah, I would give Smart a B. I mean, he's not shooting as well as the team would probably like, but then again, he hasn't been the greatest shooter throughout his career. That's not really what he's expected to do. He's not going to come in and shoot the lights out. He has run the offense pretty well, especially before Kemba Walker returned to the lineup. He's a guy who came in and kind of ran that offense as well as he could have, and he did a really good job. He's always extremely good on the defensive end and extremely good at just bringing energy on, games when it's just a dud and a lot of the guys don't really have it at that night. So he's done a great job with what they kind of expect him to do. And it's a huge, huge relief that he's only going to be out for a couple weeks, because you see a non-contact injury like that on Saturday and your mind immediately goes to worst case scenarios. So 2 to 3 weeks is a definite win for the Celtics.
Chris, who would you name the valedictorian of the first quarter of the Celtics season? Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum? Good luck with this.
Is there such thing as a co-valedictorian?
I think so. Yeah, I'm sure.
I'd love to do that. If I had to pick one, I would say Jaylen Brown. I mean, the progression he's made coming into this season, really, really impressive. He's done a lot with some pretty heavy ball handling responsibilities that he's never really had up until this season. So that jump wasn't really expected, at least to this degree. And he's, at this point, without question, an NBA All-Star, and I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. And if it wasn't for him, the Celtics would be in some major, major trouble. I mean, Tatum and Brown are one of the best duos right now in the league. They're scoring about 50% of the Celtics' points, which is just ridiculous. It also says something about the supporting cast at this point, so that's probably an issue.
Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's not, but I feel like those two could use some help right now. So grade Danny Ainge for me, the guy who's in charge of getting them help.
They certainly could use some help. I think Danny Ainge's grade would have to be a TBD at the moment, because he hasn't really done anything. You could grade him off of bringing in Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson, and I think a lot of fans would probably give him like an F at that point, because they haven't been all that great. But realistically, the team needed a veteran presence, and I think they would make those moves again. And I really don't think you can knock him for bringing those two guys in. The question is how he uses those trade exceptions this season. You've had the J.J. Redick rumors right now. I don't know if that's really what the Celtics need. J.J. Redick is toward the back end of his career. He's having a tough shooting season, and he can't really defend all that well. I think the Celtics could use a big, versatile wing who can defend multiple positions, because Boston's defense has not been anything to write home about at this point in the season. So I think we can grade Danny effectively when we find out what he does with those trade exceptions.
What's the first quarter report card look like for Boston's big men?
That's an interesting one, because like I just said, Tristan Thompson, probably like a C. He's had some trouble finishing around the rim. He's just looked a little bit out of sorts. Like the Lakers game the other night on Saturday, he just didn't really make an impact, and that's not really what you look for out of that addition. On the other hand, Daniel Tice and Robert Williams, I could say you could easily give those guys probably B+, I would say.
All right, so what do you do with the bench here? Because that does include Peyton Pritchard. That's got to give them a boost.
Right. Peyton Pritchard, I mean, definite A. I would say Shemi Ojeleye, A-, B+. He's been great. The rest of the bench is in rough shape. Like, they don't really have any other options, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Tatum and Brown scoring like 50% of the points here. There's really not a whole lot of contributions coming from the depth.
You're not like a regular teacher, man. You're a cool teacher. Appreciate you, Chris Grenham.
Thanks, Emerson.